Hello everyone. Let's continue exploring the story of the Tao. Tao gives birth to one. One gives birth to two. Two gives birth to three. And three gives birth to all things. Let's use this as our foundation for a detailed analysis. This statement clearly involves 4 steps, which we will break down one by one. First, Tao gives birth to one indicates that the first circle emerges from the Tao within the chaos. The radius of this circle and its position in the chaos are already determined. Second, one gives birth to two means the second circle originates from the first circle. Its radius is the same as the first circle, but its position is not yet fixed. Third, two gives birth to three shows that the third circle originates from the second circle, with a radius identical to the previous 2 circles. Since the position of the second circle is fixed, the third circle can only be placed to the left or right of the second circle. There are no other options. Fourth, 3 gives birth to all things implies that the logic of the previous 3 steps will be continuously repeated in subsequent steps. The first step determines existence and size. The second step sets the position. The third step decides direction. And the fourth step involves infinite repetition and evolution. Now, back to the main point. The above is merely my personal interpretation of the Tao Te Ching. Let's consider Western perspectives. There is a creative will that originates from the void. As it comes into existence, its rhombus creates the first circle on the water's surface. It says, "Let there be light." And light appears, followed by waves and vortices, which marks the first day, with consciousness already present. It naturally progresses to the second step. As it moves, it creates a second circle on the water's surface, intersecting with the first circle, which represents the second day. The intersection of the first and second days forms the symbol of a fish, which has certain meanings in religious beliefs that are widely known and won't be detailed here. The third day is similar to the second day, forming new ripples and vortices on the water's surface and intersecting with the second circle. This Trinity symbol is also well known and won't be expanded upon here. After the creative consciousness completes 6 steps, 6 vortices form around the first circle, marking the completion of creation. Next, let's look at the time following these 6 steps. At the center of the world, a 6-petaled symbol appears. Yes, this flower resembles a lotus, doesn't it? If you've heard of the 7-step convergence, feel free to applaud. This is also a well-known religious symbol. The 7 vortices created, including the vortices from the creation, are known as the seed of life. Many ancient civilizations have similar symbols and marks, which is one of the most fascinating aspects of ancient history. It's evident that outside the creative consciousness, the first circle contains 6 circles intersecting to form 6 focal points. Based on these focal points, we can continue to expand outward to the second circle layer. In the second circle layer, for clarity, I've marked 8 spherical patterns in the diagram. Many might say, there are 8 spheres, not 7. Note that the pattern has risen from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions, so 1 sphere is naturally obscured. These 8 spherical patterns are known as the egg of life. Why elevate dimensions? This is closely related to our subsequent developments. The egg of life is linked to the second level of alchemy, which involves cell transformation. For instance, when a fertilized egg splits into 8 cells, it is called the embryo at 8 cells, which then progresses to the blastist stage. Our height, skin color, and even the number of hairs are related to these initial 8 cells. A tree of life mentioned at the beginning of our series is also part of the second circle layer. Here, the tree of life in Judaism and Kabbalah is included. Let's unify similar symbols from primitive religions. As you know, returning to the second circle layer, if we continue the previous logic, we reach the third circle layer, known as the flower of life. This symbol appears across various civilizations, religions, myths, and races. After obtaining the flower of life, we further expand in 3 dimensions, ultimately forming a pattern known as the fruit of life. Connecting the spheres within the fruit of life, we obtain the Metatron's cube. This geometric shape consists of 5 Platonic solids and is believed to contain the foundation of all things. Sounds a bit mystical, doesn't it? Even more mystical. In 1907, Torfian, the American Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, says, E.T., I sent a signal containing Earth and human information into space, which included the Metatron's cube. The name Metatron comes from the highest angel in the Book of Enoch, I mentioned earlier. Hence, it is also referred to as sacred geometry in the West. It seems that science does indeed have a mystical flavor at its end. As you can see, the concept of Tao in the most important 2 sentences of the Tao. Each ing leans towards the idea of an entity. This entity Tao is prior to the universe, prior to the creation of light, and prior to the concept of creation itself. Why do I say this Tao is prior to the entity, rather than just saying it is the entity? The concept of an entity actually comes from philosophy. It is something that can exist independently, as the origin of all things. Idealism interprets it as spirit, while materialism interprets it as matter. However, the idea of an entity, whether spirit or matter, is a human, imposed illusion. The entity itself is not subject to human will. Whether spirit or matter is simply a projection by humans. Thus, the entity Tao is somewhat similar to Laozi's concept of heaven and earth being impartial, treating all things as straw and ox. Since the entity Tao precedes all concept of entities, it naturally raises the question, is the Tao before all entities also an entity itself? If Tao is not an entity, then what is it? So I say the entity Tao leans towards the concept of entity, but does not directly claim it as such. We know that rules are human-made, while laws are natural. Here, natural does not refer to the natural world, but to Laozi's idea of self-evident, not influenced by human will. In the previously mentioned 7 steps and 7 circles of the seed of life, humans have determined the position, size, and direction of the circle. Shings are human-made rules. However, the circumference of a circle, or pi, is independent of human-made rules. It is self-evident, which is a higher order law than rules. This shows that rules are created, while laws are discovered. Hence, it is often said that the weak are in the rules created by others, while the strong are in the laws created by nature. The 2 sentences discussed in the Tao Te Ching are actually within the realm of entity Tao, which is natural law. This can be expressed through certain forms, such as geometry, and also involves deeper discovery and induction. Sometimes discovering these deeper laws comes at a great cost. For instance, the Pythagorean scholar Hippasus discovered that the diagonal of a square with side length 1 cannot be expressed as an integer or fraction, discovering the irrational number 2, known as the first mathematical crisis. Thus, the Pythagoreans kept this new discovery secret, but Hippasus inadvertently leaked it, and according to legend, he was thrown into the sea by Pythagoreans and drowned. Similar situations have occurred frequently throughout history. Those familiar with the Tao Te Ching know that Laozi's Tao, besides the entity Tao, also includes another form, the social rules created by humans. This Tao is subject to human will. Laozi bundled this Tao with the concept of virtue, calling it Tao and Di. This Tao, which I'll call Rule Tao for now, requires us to understand what virtue means within Rule Tao. First, we need to grasp what is absolute and what is relative. The alchemist Newton saw time and space as absolute. But Einstein, by removing the other from the absolute space, time view, declared time and space as relative. So, what is time and space? It is the universe. Shugensi once said, the Tang sun and moon gorges, the universe is its mirror image. Universe means all space, and time means all time. Mosquitoes also refer to the ancient as the universe, with the four directions up and down being the universe, indicating the ancients had a relatively complete understanding of the universe. When Fuxi drew the sky, heaven, and earth, or the universe, were created. This universe is now scientifically proven to be relative. Laozi mentioned that there was a state of chaos before heaven and earth were formed, independent and unchanging, circulating endlessly, which can be called the mother of heaven and earth. This is what he saw as absolute, loosely referred to as Tao. The reason this Tao is absolute is that it transcends the relative concept of time and space. Many people claim that Tao is the universe, but I believe this is incorrect. Tao encompasses the universe, but the universe does not encompass Tao. Furthermore, some claim Tao is created from nothing, which is also incorrect. The Tao Te Ching states that existence and non-existence arise from each other, and difficulty and ease are mutually complementary. This means that existence and non-existence arise together, as do difficulty and ease. Therefore, Tao cannot be born from nothing. Tao existed in the chaos before existence and non-existence as relative concepts. Only after Fuxi drew the sky, or someone said, "Let there be light," and separated the sun and moon, did relative perception come about. For example, if a father and son are born on the same day, the existence of the son naturally implies the existence of the father. Beauty and ugliness are similar. The concept of beauty naturally implies the concept of ugliness. The phrase mother of all under heaven illustrates that Tao gives birth to all things and bestows them with their characteristics. Thus, Tao not only gives birth to all things, but also to all phenomena. Where there is mist, there is form. Therefore, Laozi not only explains the relationship between Tao and things, but also between Tao and phenomena, indicating that Tao is the origin of all concept, and there is no concept of immortality and Tao. Since Tao gives birth to all things, the operating laws of all things naturally carry the logic of Tao. The inherent Tao of each thing is virtue. Chapter 15 of the Tao Te Ching states, it gives birth to, nourishes, supports, shapes, and perfects all things. Therefore, all things respect Tao and value virtue. This means that the great Tao transforms all things, while virtue nurtures all things. Each thing in phenomenon has its own virtue, which is the internal structure and logic of all things. Laozi continues, the highest good is like water, which is similar to virtue. Water nourishes all things but does not flaunt itself. When water is placed in a container, it takes the shape of the container. When water is poured into the ocean, it takes the shape of the ocean. Laozi traveled westward from Henggu Pass, facing the famous Gobi and the yellow sands of time, with the echoes of an era behind him, and the debates of 100 schools. He used his remaining years to pay back the debt of civilization with his simple signature, ending with a couplet from Heidegger, a Western admirer of Laozi, who can be turbid and still, gradually clear like water, who can be still and yet full of vitality like grass.